Good morning, Boker Tov. This week's Torah portion begins with the story of Abraham sitting at the door of his tent in the heat of the day, and he sees three men approaching, and he runs towards them and invites them into his home to be his guests. And he serves them a lavish meal with Sarah, his wife, preparing cakes and cookies, and his son Ishmael preparing a tender calf as he stands over the guests and serves them. And the question is, why does the Torah dedicate so much time talking about this story of Abraham's hospitality, the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim, welcoming guests into your home? After all, there's no direct mitzvah in the Torah to welcome guests. There's a general commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. And therefore, included in that is also the mitzvah of hospitality, because you would want someone to host you if you were traveling and needed a place to eat or sleep. You should do the same to others. Why does this story get such prominence in the Torah when telling the story of our first patriarch, Abraham? And the Maral Miprag gives a beautiful answer. And he says, every time we do a mitzvah, we are trying to align ourselves with God, to fulfill the commandment of walking in His ways. And he says, that's why the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim, welcoming guests into your home, is discussed at such length regarding the first Jew. Because God Himself is the ultimate host. God created this world, and we are all guests in God's home. Every moment of every day, of every hour in this world, we are being hosted by God in His universe. We are His guests. And like a good host, He provides us with an abundance of food and water, and every delight that we could imagine possible is available to us. And therefore, it's through the mitzvah of Achnasat Orchim that we emulate God and we be God-like in hosting others. But perhaps we could take it one step further. We always know that we always want to reciprocate God's kindness to us. And being that every human being has the image of God within themselves, every human being is a part of God, every human being has a godly soul. Therefore, just as God hosts us in His world, we reciprocate that kindness when we host others in our home, because we are hosting God Himself. We are creating a home for God by inviting a human being in the image of God to be our guests. And that's the power of the mitzvah of Hachnasat Orchim, to welcome every human being, to see the image of God in every human being, whatever they may appear like. Abraham's guests were just nomads. They were just idolaters who were roaming down the street. They were not necessarily distinguished or prominent or powerful, but he saw a human being in the image of God and he invited them into their home. There's a story told about this rabbi who was very unknown, came to a town, he needed a place to spend Shabbat. And nobody really invited him except this simple Jew in town, a poor man, said, look, I don't have much, but you're welcome to be my guest. Whatever I have, we can share it. Many years later, this rabbi became very renowned, very famous, had a lot of followers, and he came back to the same town. This time he came with an entourage, with a coach, with white horses. And the richest man in town heard that this prominent rabbi was in town. He sent a message, I would like you to be my guest for Shabbat. The rabbi heard, and he said to his assistant, take my horses, my white horses, and say, these are your Shabbat guests. And I will go back to the poor man who invited me when I was here years ago. The rich man, when he heard this, he was very offended, and he went to the rabbi and he said, Rabbi, I extend a generous invitation to my home and you embarrass me by sending me your horses for my guests for Shabbat? The rabbi said, I'll tell you, I was here a number of years ago and nobody really invited me for Shabbat, yourself included. Now I return and I get this beautiful invitation. So I asked myself, what changed? I'm the same person I was when I came here 10 years ago. The only difference is, when I came 10 years ago, I came with my walking stick as a simple man. Today I come with a coach with white horses. So I realized what you're really impressed with is my white horses. That's what is attracting your attention. So let them be your Shabbat guests, and I'll go back to my original host. And the message of this story is very powerful. The first message is, don't invite people into your home because of their titles or their power or their prominence or their importance. Every human being, like Abraham runs to these simple three people to invite them into his home. Every human being, see the image of God in every human being. And second of all, the rabbi said, I just want to go to that poor man. Maybe the food won't be as lavish or the accommodations won't be as fancy, but I know that's where I'm wanted. That's a man who really wants me as his guest. And being a guest in someone's home is not about the quality of the food, but the warmth and the hospitality. And that's why when we invite guests into our home like Abraham, we have to do it with joy. We have to do it with service, with a smile. Our guests have to feel that they are truly wanted, that they're not a burden on us, but they're a pleasure and a delight. Have a wonderful day.